Good morning. It's about 11 UTC. Just wanted to do a little bit of a market update for Bitcoin specifically. We had a nice move yesterday, amazing short squeeze. And yeah, we'll go from there. So the big thing is today, not a whole lot. Like obviously CPI is lower for UK. The big ones we care about tomorrow are core retail sales, initial jobless claims, Philadelphia Fed manufacturing, retail sales. Those four basically are the big ones. They're coming out an hour before the New York Open, so I'm expecting quite a bit of volatility going into the U.S. Open or the New York Stock Exchange Open tomorrow. But nothing today to worry about. Looking at the funding rates, they're come down a little bit from yesterday. They're still quite high, 0.073, but they're coming down, which is good. Trying to build back heavy amounts of short liquidity because the books have been keep getting wiped. Quite a bit of heavy shorting that we're seeing at the local highs as well, which we can go through. But we want to see that number continue coming down. But for the time being, it's still positive. So yeah, there is some influence to the downside. However, the priority is still technically up. Next thing to look at is the long short ratios. So the big thing here that sticks out to me is there's a lot of account shorting still coming back in. It actually flipped a little bit in the last couple days. We're going back up, especially yesterday. We were seeing quite a bit of people trying to step in to grab the long quickly, and then that reversed, and now people are trying to short it quite heavily. So overall, that's a good thing. We want to see the long short ratios continue becoming more short. The more short they are, the more likely it is that we have a continuation as people who have missed the upside move continue trying shorting. Just looking at some of the metrics, just using CoinGlass today, aggregate liquidations, massive short liquidations, but in all honesty, there were no real changes from what we did on the 14th. So pretty good 2 days of pretty heavy short liquidations, and the reversal we saw yesterday was just absolutely brutal. Came right back down to the start of the move, liquidated a ton of localized longs. Now all of the major longs are really below 65K if they want to do some long liquidity grabbing. So that's important to note where the price went in case we do start breaking down locally. So we have targets that are at liquidity because of that big move. Also, we're seeing quite a bit of open interest increasing here, as well as the bid-ask delta is becoming very negative. So again, people shorting into the highs. So overall, still looking good for upside potential. There's some localized failures that could break stuff, but until we really start breaking below Monday's upside move, we still have trend to the upside, priority upside. Looking over at some of the liquidation areas, like obviously from that move, we've had a lot of shorts start to build back in. Specifically focusing on 50x and 100x, there's quite a bit just taking us up to 68K. However, there is some local stuff below us, right? We get a little bit of like high leverage building below this localized move. And there's some more significant things, what we kind of tagged into yesterday. So if we do want to have some localized breaks, again, we're targeting sub 65K where we actually start to break some of that local structure. So any new lows that really clear what we did yesterday, then we would look to target some pain to the downside. But for right now, the local stuff still looks good. And then on the higher time frame as well. Oh, actually, that was the wrong chart. On the higher time frame, looking at it from a perspective like 4 hour plus, so much older liquidity, seeing 25x, 10x is basically large, older orders. We're barely scratching the surface of that giga short liquidity that's still above us. So there is still plenty of short liquidity above us. We are very close to the all-time high. We're very close to massive amounts of liquidations. I think in the magnitude of like 10, 20, 30 billion. I don't even know how much would be liquidated, but a very significant amount of short liquidations would occur. And all we really need to do is get back up towards 70, and we're pretty much in that pocket of that liquidity. And then on the higher time frame, like you're talking 25x, 10x, 5x, there's nothing below us until we go sub 60. So we are very much more acting like we want to go higher because this liquidity is acting like a magnet. So with that, looking over at Trading View, general plan and outlook here. We talked about this yesterday or in the Discord. If we're looking at the localized structure, then that liquidation event was just a nasty move back down. However, we've regained priority back up. Closed good, created a demand zone, higher lows, regaining previous daily open, currently bouncing off the daily open to go higher. It's all fine and well. Looks dandy to go into the Wednesday open. The first break that I would start to target lower would effectively be just a localized failure at the daily open. I don't think that is as likely as just a continuation, but if we do start to fail, create some new lows and then bearish retest, then I want to see us come back down into that structure And if we have that continuation move, like we don't get the bounce, then I want to see us come back down here and sweep that low and get into that liquidation zone that we talked about from just a couple seconds ago on that trading different chart. So just a reminder, the big thing here, the price action is still bullish. 69K is basically the next major target to the upside. At the highest points up here, we're starting to get like 69.6, 69.2, the old like last cycle all-time high. These are all great targets potentially, but this is the last pocket of resistance. Anything that gets above 69 gets to 70K plus, it's likely to cause a melt up for a couple reasons. I posted on Twitter yesterday about the supply shock and the fact that exchanges are at 5-year lows, 5 years, and they're at their lowest point in 5 years for as much as Bitcoin they have on hand. And that's what would happen. You get an absolute face melting upside move because there's literally not enough Bitcoin to fill orders. So the price has to rapidly increase to get people, selling to supply for buyers. So it would be pretty wild, to say the least. So that's that. Key SR is what we have here, 67.2. We got the daily open, 65.5. This is definitely going to be a pretty big support zone. I would expect we could bounce here. However, if we are breaking down pretty hard, and we've had such an upside move, I would expect people to try to flip and go long again, which means we could have a deeper drive into that liquidity. So it's still possible to hold this. I think it's still a good demand zone at 65.5. But in general, if we do actually start breaking below that, then we start losing priority, especially flipping August. That breaks the upside trend, at least for the time being. It doesn't break like the macro move, but it definitely breaks like the local move for sure. And losing this low again, that would be the first start of realistically breaking priority and trend on the local structure. But across the board, it's still great. We still have lots of structure to test the downside. It still looks strong. Everyone's freaking out, calling this move BS, and waiting for the hopium to really froth before we have any type of continuations. But it's looking good. We just had an hourly close, new hourly close high that we haven't seen an hourly close that high since back in July. So it still looks strong. You can't knock this as a potential continuation. We've got the low time frame liquidity just a little bit. We're in the old liquidity above us. Don't short it until we actually get breakdowns and loss of level. That's that. Take it easy.